Walk into any garden center in America this spring. Go ahead, picture it. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, bags of potting soil stacked to the ceiling, seed packets with glossy tomatoes on the front, and somewhere near the back, a plastic bin full of garlic bulbs wrapped in mesh netting. $3 a bag, imported from China. Next to it, a flat of onion sets the size of marbles, already sprouting under the store lights. You grab a bag of each, toss them in the cart next to the fertilizer and the weed killer and the drip irrigation kit, and you drive home feeling like a gardener. Now picture something else. An Amish kitchen garden in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. No fluorescent lights, no mesh bags from China, no price tags, just rows. Clean, straight, dark rows of soil that have been running the same crops in the same rotation for longer than your family has owned your house. Garlic on the left, onions on the right, both thriving, both enormous, and here's the part that should stop you cold. Nobody bought any of it. Not this year, not last year, not the year before that, not for 100 years. Where did the garlic come from? Where did the onion seed come from? Because the Amish don't drive to the garden center. They don't have a catalog. They don't browse Amazon. They don't order from a seed company. The answer is so simple, it might make you angry. They grew it. From the garlic they grew last year, from the onions they grew the year before, one clove of garlic pushed root end down into October soil, sits in the dark all winter, it grows roots under the snow, it pushes a green shoot through frozen mulch in March before anything else in the garden is alive. By July, it's a full bulb. By August, it's cured and hanging in the barn. By September, the biggest cloves from the biggest bulbs are set aside. And by October, those cloves go back into the ground, October to October. One cycle, no outside input, no purchase, infinite garlic. Onions run on a different clock, but the same principle. One bulb, left in the ground on purpose through winter, bolts the following spring. A 2-foot stalk shoots up, topped with a globe of tiny white flowers. Each flower becomes a seed. One globe holds enough seed for 500 onions. 500 from one bulb that cost nothing but the decision to leave it alone. This video is going to change that. Not with tips, not with life hacks, with a system. We're walking through both cycles, month by month, garlic first, then onions. Planting, growing, harvesting, curing, saving seed, and closing the loop so it feeds itself forever. By the end, you'll have a 12-month calendar and one fact you won't forget. After year one, you never buy onion or garlic starts again. That's not a pitch. That's just how the biology works. And it starts in October, not April. October, with one clove. 6 inches underground. In soil that's cooling but not yet frozen. Let me show you exactly how. So, October, second week, give or take, the air has that first real bite to it. Leaves are turning. The garden is winding down. Most people are done. They pulled the last tomatoes, raked the beds, maybe tossed some mulch on top and called it a year. The Amish are just getting started. This is planting day for garlic, and the way they do it hasn't changed in 100 years. First, the soil. You don't plant garlic into dead ground. Amish garlic goes into beds that grew beans or peas that same summer. Why? Because legumes fix nitrogen into the soil. They leave it richer than they found it. No purchased fertilizer, no bags of October 10th. 10 from the hardware store, just crop rotation, beans, then garlic. That's the sequence. If the bed didn't grow legumes, it gets a thick layer of compost from the farm pile, not bagged compost, the real thing. Kitchen scraps, barn straw, manure, broken down over months until it's black and crumbly and smells like wet forest floor. Now, the planting. You take your best bulbs from last year's harvest, the biggest ones, the ones with the fattest cloves. You break them apart the day you plant, not before. Each clove goes into the ground individually, root end down, pointed end up, 4 to 6 inches deep, 6 inches apart. That's it. No soaking, no pre-sprouting, no rooting hormone, just a clove in the dirt, pointed end aimed at the sky. Here's where it matters which type you're planting. Hardneck garlic is what the Amish in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and most of the northern states grow. It handles cold winters. It produces thick, easy-to-peel cloves, usually 4 to 8 per bulb, and it sends up something called a scape in. Late spring, a curling green stalk with a little bulge at the top. You cut those scapes and eat them. They taste like mild garlic and go in everything from stir-fry to pesto. Softneck garlic is the other option, better for southern growers, more cloves per bulb, sometimes 15 or 20, but smaller. No scapes, longer storage life. If you're in the deep south, softneck is your garlic. If you're anywhere with real winters, go hardneck. The Amish didn't learn this from a chart. They learned it by growing what survived. After planting, you wait. You wait for the first hard frost, not a light frost, a hard one. The kind that kills the last marigolds and turns the grass crunchy in the morning. Then you mulch, 4 to 6 inches of straw right over the top of where you planted. The Amish use straw from the barn. You can use straw, leaves, or hay. The mulch holds moisture, insulates the soil, and keeps the ground from heaving when it freezes and thaws. And then you do the hardest thing in gardening. You walk away. Because from November through February, the work belongs to the garlic, not to you. And the paradox is this: the months when you do absolutely nothing are the months when the most important thing is happening. Under that straw, in frozen soil, in the dark, the clove is growing roots. Not shoots, roots. A web of white threads pushing down and out through cold dirt, anchoring the clove, pulling in nutrients, building the foundation for everything that comes next. You won't see any of it. You won't know it's happening. But it is. Every day. All winter. Then, March comes. One morning, you walk out to the garden, and there it is. A single green spike pushing straight up through 4 inches of straw. Then another, then a dozen. The garlic is the first thing alive in the garden. Before the daffodils, before the crocuses, before you've even thought about tomatoes. Now here's the thing. Do not touch that mulch. Leave it. The straw is still working. It's keeping moisture in, keeping weeds down, and keeping the soil temperature stable while the shoots are young and fragile. The Amish leave it right where it is until harvest. Some of it breaks down and feeds the soil. The rest gets raked off at the end. Through April and May, the garlic grows fast, a foot tall, then 2. The leaves widen, dark green, each one feeding the bulb below. And if you planted hardneck somewhere around late May or early June, you'll see the scapes, curly green stalks that loop up out of the center of the plant like a pig's tail. Cut them right where they emerge from the leaves, eat them. But more than that, cutting the scape tells the plant to stop putting energy into making a flower and put all of it into the bulb instead. Bigger cloves, better garlic. The Amish don't waste scapes. They go into soups, scrambles, pickles. Nothing leaves the loop. By late June, the lower leaves start to yellow and brown. This is the signal. When 4 or 5 leaves are still green and the rest have browned, it's time, not before. Pulling too early gives you undersized bulbs. pulling too late, and the wrappers split underground, which ruins storage life. You dig, not pull. A garden fork under the bulb, lift gently, shake off the dirt. Don't wash them, don't trim them, just lay them out in a dry, airy spot out of direct sun. A barn works, a covered porch works, a garage with the door cracked works. They cure for 2 to 3 weeks. The outer wrappers dry into papery skin, the stems dry stiff, the flavor deepens. After curing, trim the roots, cut the stems to about an inch above the bulb, and your garlic is ready to store. But that's only half the system. Because garlic, even beautiful garlic, is just a one-time crop if you eat all of it. The Amish don't eat all of it. But garlic is only half the equation. And the onion cycle is where this whole thing goes from impressive to something that changes how you think about food. The garlic cycle starts in October. The onion cycle starts in March. Different clock. Same philosophy, same closed loop, same destination. You never buy starts again. Here's how it works. Early March, snow might still be on the ground in parts of the country. The garden is mud. Nothing is growing outside. But inside, on a windowsill or a shelf in the barn loft, the Amish have shallow flats filled with soil. And into that soil, they're pressing onion seeds. Tiny, black, almost like ground pepper. They scatter them across the surface, press them in with a flat palm, and barely cover them. A dusting of soil. That's it. The key is temperature. These flats don't go in a warm kitchen, they go somewhere cool. 55 to 65 degrees, a barn loft, a mudroom, an unheated porch. Onion seeds germinate in cool conditions. Too warm, and the seedlings get leggy and weak. Too cold, and nothing happens. That cool windowsill your grandmother used for starting plants? She wasn't guessing. She was right. By mid-April, those seedlings are 3 to 4 inches tall and thin as pencil lead. They look like nothing, like grass clippings standing upright. Every instinct says they're too small, too fragile, too thin to survive outside. But this is exactly when you transplant them into garden rows 4 inches apart, in soil that grew potatoes or squash the year before, loose soil, worked soil, soil that doesn't fight the bulb as it swells. Now here's the thing. Most gardening videos skip, and it's the single reason more onions fail than any pest or disease. Day length. Onions don't bulb because of temperature. They don't bulb because of watering. They bulb because of how many hours of daylight they receive. Long day onions, the kind that work in the northern half of the country, need 14 to 16 hours of daylight to trigger bulbing. That means they won't start forming a bulb until June, when the days are longest. Short day onions, for the south, bulb at 10 to 12 hours. Intermediate types sit in the middle. Plant the wrong type for your latitude and you get a green stalk that never makes a bulb. Period. The Amish never had this problem. You know why? Because they save their own seed. The onion that made seed in their garden last year was already adapted to their latitude, their day length, their climate. They didn't need a chart. They didn't need to Google it. The seed knew. That's what a century of seed saving does. It builds local intelligence right into the genetics. Through June and July, the bulbs swell. You can see the tops of them pushing out of the soil, shoulders rounding, skins tightening. By August, the green tops start to flop over on their own. Don't push them over, don't bend them, just wait. When about half the tops have fallen naturally, that's harvest time. Pull them, shake off the dirt, and cure them in a single layer, same as garlic. 2 to 3 weeks in a dry spot with airflow, the skins go papery, the necks dry tight, and the onions are ready for storage. 500 onions from one bulb. That number has been sitting there since the first chapter. Now let me tell you exactly how it works. But zooming out for a second, there's something bigger going on in these Amish gardens than just planting schedules. There's a design, a layout, a logic to where things go that most modern gardeners completely overlook. The Amish plant onions and garlic near their brassica rows. Cabbage, broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts. Not randomly, on purpose. Alliums, the onion and garlic family, give off sulfur compounds that repel cabbage moths. The Amish plant onions and garlic near their brassica rows. Cabbage, broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, not randomly, on purpose. Alliums, the onion and garlic family, give off sulfur compounds that repel cabbage moths. The white butterflies you see fluttering around your garden in June, their larvae chew through cabbage leaves like paper. Rows of onions nearby cut that population down without a single spray. The Amish figured this out the same way they figured out everything else, by watching what happened over decades and keeping what worked. Garlic goes around the base of fruit trees, apple, pear, cherry. The sulfur compounds in the garlic foliage discourage borers, the insects that tunnel into tree trunks and kill from the inside. A ring of garlic cloves planted in October around a young apple tree isn't decoration, it's defense. And none of this costs anything. No sprays, no netting, no insecticidal soap, just placement. Knowing what goes where and why. It's engineering. Quiet engineering that doesn't look like engineering until you realize the whole garden is a machine and every row is a gear. Now let's talk about soil, because this is where most people reach for their wallet and the Amish reach for their pitchfork. Modern gardening tells you to buy amendments. Bags of bone meal, blood meal, kelp meal, perlite, vermiculite, worm castings. The Amish buy none of it. Not because they're cheap, because they don't need it. Their system is sequence, not products. Garlic follows beans. Beans fixed nitrogen. Onions follow potatoes. Potatoes loosened the soil. Tomatoes follow onions. Onions suppressed soil-borne fungi. Every crop prepares the ground for the next one. And everything organic, every kitchen scrap, every barn stall, every pile of straw goes back into the compost. The compost feeds the soil feeds the crop feeds the family and the compost pile. Another loop, another cycle that feeds itself. You don't need to buy anything to build soil this good. You need to stop throwing things away. And that brings us to the part of this system that changes everything. The part the Amish don't think twice about, but that most American gardeners have never done. The part that turns a one-time garden project into a machine that runs forever. Seed saving, the loop closer. Start with garlic, it's the easy one. At harvest in July, you lay out all your bulbs and you look at them. Really look. The part that turns a one-time garden project into a machine that runs forever. Seed saving, the loop closer. Start with garlic, it's the easy one. At harvest in July, you lay out all your bulbs and you look at them. Really look. Some are bigger, some have fatter cloves. Some came from plants that grew taller, resisted disease better, matured faster. You pick the best, not the average, the best, the biggest bulbs from the healthiest plants. You set them aside. You don't eat them, you don't cook with them, you don't give them to the neighbors. In September, you break those bulbs into individual cloves, and in October, those cloves go into the ground, the same depth, the same spacing, and the cycle runs again, year after year after year. Each generation slightly better than the last because you're always selecting for size, health, and vigor. The Amish have been doing this so long that their garlic strains are effectively custom bred for their specific soil, their specific climate, their specific farm. You can't buy that in a catalog. Now, onions. This is the one that blows people's minds. Onions are biennial. They live 2 years. The first year, they make a bulb. The second year, if you leave that bulb in the ground through winter, it wakes back up in spring and does something completely different. It bolts. A thick stalk shoots up 2 feet tall sometimes, and at the top, a round globe of tiny white or purple flowers opens up. That globe is called an umbel. Every instinct tells you to stop it. Every gardening blog says bolting is failure. The Amish say let it finish, because that umbel is making you seeds. Hundreds of them. When the flowers dry and the little black seeds start to rattle inside, you cut the stalk, hold the umbel upside down over a paper bag, and shake. One umbel drops 200 to 500 seeds, one single globe, enough to plant 500 onions next March. Remember that one clove in October? It's here. It's come full circle. The clove became a bulb. The bulb gave up its best cloves. Those cloves went back into the ground. On the onion side, the bulb became a flower. The flower became seed. The seed becomes 500 new onions. Nothing purchased, nothing imported, nothing from a store. This is the moment the system becomes perpetual. And the paradox nobody expects, the thing that looked like failure, the bolting, the going to seed that every modern gardener panics about, is the single most important step in the entire process. But here's the contrast that matters. The Amish run this system flawlessly because they've had a century of practice. Most Americans trying it for the first time will make mistakes, specific ones, predictable ones, and every single one of them will kill the loop before it starts. Mistake number one, planting grocery store garlic. That white bulb you bought at the supermarket for $2, it's almost certainly softneck garlic imported from China, treated with a chemical sprout inhibitor so it stays pretty on the shelf. Plant it, and one of two things happens. It doesn't sprout at all, or it sprouts weakly into a variety completely wrong for your climate. Either way, your first year fails, you get discouraged, and you go back to the garden center. That's not an accident. That's the commercial supply chain working exactly as designed. Start with seed garlic from a farm or a seed supplier you trust, hardneck for the north, softneck for the south. Mistake number two, pulling onions too early. The tops are still green and standing straight. The bulb looks good from above. You get excited, yank it out, and find a golf ball with roots. Onions tell you when they're ready. The tops fall over by themselves. When half the row is flat on its own, it's time. Not before. Patience isn't optional. Mistake number three, storing garlic in the refrigerator. This one kills more garlic than any pest. A fridge is cold and damp. Garlic needs cool and dry. The moisture in a refrigerator triggers mold and sprouting. Garlic goes in a mesh bag or a braid, hung in a pantry, a dry basement, or a mudroom. Room temperature is fine, just keep it away from humidity. Mistake number four, composting onion scraps near the garden. Onion skins, ends, and peels in a compost pile right next to your onion rows attract onion fly. The females lay eggs in the soil near alliums, and the larvae burrow into the bulbs and destroy them from inside. Compost your onion scraps on the far side of the property or bury them deep. Keep that smell away from the growing rows. Four mistakes. 4 ways to break the loop before it ever closes. Avoid them, and the system works every time. But growing all this garlic and all these onions means nothing if you lose half of it to rot in November. So how do you store a year's worth of alliums without a commercial cooler, without vacuum sealing, without any of the gear the internet tries to sell you? The same way the Amish have done it for 100 years, with air, temperature, and patience. Garlic first. After curing, your hardneck garlic goes into mesh bags or gets braided by the stems and hung from a nail. Not in a plastic bag, not in a sealed container, not in the fridge. A cool, dry room with airflow, a pantry, a mud room, a dry corner of the basement. Hardneck garlic stored this way lasts 4 to 6 months. That means garlic planted in October and harvested in July will carry you through November, maybe December. After that, you're cooking from the next generation, the cloves you planted in October that are already growing roots underground. The gap between running out and the next harvest is covered by the cycle itself. Softneck garlic stores longer, 8 to 10 months. If you're in the South and growing softneck, you can make it from July harvest all the way to the following May before quality drops. Onions are a different game. They want cold, 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit with low humidity and good air circulation. A root cellar is ideal. An unheated garage in a northern winter works. A spare refrigerator set to its warmest setting works in a pinch as long as you keep the onions in open mesh, not sealed bags. Properly cured onions stored this way last 6 to 8 months. That gets you from August harvest through February or March, right when the new seedlings go into flats and the cycle restarts. Here's your 12-month calendar. October. Plant garlic, plant garlic. Mulch after hard frost. December through February, do nothing. Garlic grows roots underground. Start onion seeds in cool flats indoors. Garlic shoots emerge outside. April, transplant onion seedlings. May through June, scapes on hardneck garlic, cut and eat. June through July, onion bulbs swell. July, harvest garlic, start curing. August, harvest onions, cure both. September, select best garlic bulbs for replanting. Leave 2 to 3 onion bulbs in the ground for seed. October, plant garlic cloves. The following spring, onion bulbs bolt, collect seed from umbels, and the loop runs again. Remember the garden center from the beginning? The fluorescent lights, the mesh bags, the $3 garlic from China? That was your old system. One purchase, one season, start over. Here's your new one. One cycle, one loop, October to October, March to March. The only input is your time, your soil, and the decision to save the best of what you grew. And that's not a gardening tip. That's the beginning of something the Amish figured out a long time ago. This system works because it's built on a principle most modern Americans have forgotten. You don't need more products. You need more patience. You need to understand how the plant wants to grow and get out of the way. Let the garlic sit in frozen ground all winter. Let the onion bolt instead of panicking. Let the compost pile do what it does. Let the crop rotation feed the soil instead of a bag from the hardware store. The Amish aren't doing anything magical. They're doing what every kitchen garden in America used to do before the garden center industry convinced us we needed to buy our way into growing food. Your great-grandmother didn't buy onion sets. She saved seed. Your grandfather didn't buy garlic bulbs in a mesh bag. He broke apart last year's harvest and planted the best cloves. This isn't lost knowledge. It's just knowledge that's stopped being profitable for someone to teach you. So, here's the question. Which part of this are you starting with? Garlic this October? Onion seeds next March? Both. Drop it in the comments. And if your parents or grandparents grew their own alliums, tell us what variety, tell us what they did differently. That kind of knowledge is disappearing faster than we think, and every comment that saves a detail saves it for somebody else. If this was useful, hit the like button. Not because we're asking, but because it tells the algorithm to show this to other people who actually want to grow their own food instead of buying it in a bag. And if you know somebody who gardens, someone with a backyard plot they're not using, or a raised bed that's been sitting empty since August, send this to them. This system works. It just needs someone willing to push that first clove into the ground. 73% of people watching this right now aren't subscribed. That means the next video won't show up in your feed. Subscribing is free, takes 1 second, and next week we're going deeper into the root cellar, into the fermentation crock, into the Amish methods for preserving food through winter that most Americans have completely forgotten. Don't miss it.